Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dirt and the Divine. I'm Krisha Young, your host, executive growth strategist, author, and advocate for living a fully aligned and unapologetic life. This podcast is built on the philosophy that every beautiful life has its roots in both the messy and the magnificent. Here we share raw and real stories from incredible individuals who faced life's toughest challenges head on, dug deep into their souls, and took radical personal responsibility for their lives. They didn't run or hide from their struggles. They explored their emotional landscapes, owned their experiences, and emerged authentically living in joy and alignment. Through these conversations, my hope is to inspire you to think, wow, if they went through all of that and found happiness, so can I. This space is about embracing the journey, the dirt, and the divine because together they shape a life worth living. Please note that this podcast is for general discussion only and is not a substitute for therapy, legal, or professional advice. Now, let's get started today. We have a repeat guest here, my new friend, Kathryn. So I'll just introduce this wonderful human here. Kathryn Malek is an international best-selling author, soul alignment breath facilitator, shamanic practitioner, and intuitive energy healer. Very powerful. Her transformative journey from self-doubt to self-love led her to discover the soul alignment breath process, which she calls the spiritual key to the kingdom of healing. I love that. Drawing from global wisdom traditions, Vipassana meditation, and mindfulness, Kathryn helps clients reconnect with their true selves. Her holistic approach empowers individuals to embrace their inner strength, inspiring profound healing and spiritual awakening. Kathryn, hi, welcome back.
Thank you, Krisha. So happy to be back. Just
Yay.
amazing to chat again and to explore these deeper topics and open it and unpack, as you say, unpack these for others who may be struggling or facing something that they're not sure what it is.
Yeah. And today we're going to unpack narcissism a little bit. This was a topic that you and I had explored really briefly on our first intro conversation, and I thought, ooh, this would be something really important for us to talk about because there's I've got in my previous um season of The Dirt and the Divine, I actually have a couple clients of mine who I did interviews with because they had recovered from narcissistic abuse and narcissistic relationships and stuff. And it comes up quite a bit in my coaching with people. It's come up quite a bit in my own personal experience, in my own life, in my own past relationships. And you were speaking about it. And it's also a term I think that gets thrown around a lot. Like what does it actually mean? And you were saying just before we popped on that, like, is it that they were a narcissist or are we like using this as an umbrella term now to just describe somebody who's maybe going through a little bit of a hard time or something like that. So I think we can unpack this a little bit. And also, I just want to say out the gate, like I am not a professional therapist. And so and like there's no actual diagnosing that's happening here. Like there's no test, there's no diagnostic tool or anything like that. And if somebody came across my radar as a client or whatnot who actually had NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, that is not within my remit to coach or treat in specifically, right? Like I stay in my lane. And my lane is mostly when this comes up with my clients, is helping my clients find their own inner strength again, right? Because being in those environments, it really can destroy somebody's self-worth and sense of groundedness and sense of themselves. They can get really lost in that. And so those were the interviews that I'd done with my clients last year who that's what I help them through. So I've never actually worked directly with anybody who has NPD or anything like that, and nor would I ever attempt to touch that with my current experience.
I completely understand. I am the same. I do not diagnose. I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist to do that. Um, if someone has NPD, yes, that's who you want to go to. I have helped clients who have been in relationships or worked with or had interactions with and felt pretty demolished from it. I've helped them on their healing journey because I myself have earned some stars in that area in my own life. And while I would never wish it on anybody, the healing and growth that came from it and what's on the other side is incredible. So when you are in the middle of it, though, you do not want to hear this part where I'm saying, oh, it's amazing the growth. No, no. When you're in the mud, you just need that support and someone who believes and knows what you're saying and doesn't start questioning you about it, as well as what it is that will help you to heal, to bring that wholeness back to you. As you were sharing, Krisha, it's so true. That self-worth, that self-esteem, it's a crusher for sure. It's so devastating. Absolutely.
Is. And, you use the word demolished. I think that's a really apropos word to use for anybody who is experiencing or has experienced being in a relationship, whether it's a work relationship or a romantic relationship or a friend relationship or whatever, with someone who is on the spectrum. And the worse the spectrum, the worse it is.
Mhm.
And I think the reason why this is an important topic is actually it's even maybe in my opinion a little bit less about narcissism and more about emotional abuse. And
Mhm.
emotional abuse that also has a spectrum, and it's the silent abuser, and it's the one that we don't see the bruises, we don't see the impact of that, right? And um the emotional emotions and the emotional realm is very foggy, it's very liquid, it's like pitting jello to a wall,
Mhm.
and it can be extremely difficult to articulate. And when somebody's like abusing or being manipulative or whatever, right? um it can be really hard to say something's not right, and especially if you're being gaslit, especially if you know what I mean, there's all those things that could be happening, right? And then if you're on the recipient side, like which I've been, which you've been, it's like it's crazy making, like that's the only way I can think of like describing it. It's
I
like
know, right?
what the fuck, like
Yeah,
how,
like
it's
how do you make sense of
like,
it? And then if you try to speak to anyone, because, as we know, manipulation, gaslighting, segregating you from people, and that person, has put on the show for the
yeah,
friends, for the family. So then you're the crazy one and you feel it. You
yeah,
start questioning your own sanity, your own, did I really hear that? Something I've always said, when I look back, we have cell phones nowadays, and I know here in Canada, I know that we're allowed to record. As long as I'm on the recording, I can record. It's legal. In the States, it's different. Record. That's my advice to myself, my younger self. I would say, yeah, because when you record it, you have it. You'll still be turned around by the monkeyism of this person, but at least you have that recording, documenting. That emotional abuse, huge.
yeah.
And it's something that maybe others don't recognize. They don't maybe understand. Friends and family might not understand the impact of
Mhm.
how traumatizing that is.
It's so traumatizing. I did not know that about recording. That's interesting. Thank you for that little piece of information. Use cautiously. Do not manipulate that, people.
Yeah,
Use that
it's about
wisely.
recording everything. And
Yeah,
and I'm talking, a voice recording, and I'm not,
yeah.
for your own sanity. And for me, it was useful. I have explored all the different varieties. Let's say, the friends. I come from a background in the arts, loaded with narcissists, of course. What a great playground for me, sort of. Luckily, I've healed.
Yeah.
Friends, whether it's coworkers, right? Whether you've been in an office with a manager, it's trying. So sometimes, you need that kind of evidence. So that's where I learned that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so let's dive in. Like, do you want to share a little bit about your experience with this for our viewers and listeners? And then we can sort of like pick it apart a little bit and talk a little bit more about how you healed from it, and then how you help others heal from it now. Because it's a lot. It's that demolish. It's a great word for it.
Mhm. Well, the word comes from myself, really. Like when I look back now, and I even wrote about this and published my story in a book with other women, called The Untethered Woman. And when I look back now, I could see I felt like a squashed bug at that time.
Yeah.
And my friends had no clue what a narcissist was. I remember saying to a friend, so, do you know what a narcissist is? Because thinking we could have this conversation. And I was quite traumatized at the time. And I said, "Oh yeah, the Greek myth. They look at themselves in the mirror." I'm like, "It's a little different than that." And I'm like, "Let's just change the topic now because I'm like, ooh, it was too much for me, right?" Whereas now, of course, let's go into this topic. Let's explain. Um, so I know for me, that's why I felt so demolished. It was not having those around me I could actually speak to who understood what I was talking about. So having a coach, having a therapist, having someone who knew exactly what I was speaking about, the traits, the everything, that to me was incredible. That is the best thing ever.
Yeah, and I'm just looking here up here too because a friend of mine and a client who I interviewed before, she was in a really bad relationship, like really bad. And she told her story on this podcast. Her name's Caroline. Caroline Hammond is how she's showing up in the
Caroline,
podcast. Yeah.
I know
Um,
her.
yeah, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyhow, she has like a nonprofit that she started to help people with that. So I'm just gonna get that name for us so that we have somewhere to put people who do want to have open conversations about this without being, you know, have a place to be able to share that. So I'm just looking that up right now.
Out of harm's way, maybe, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
that's it.
Does that sound right? Out of harm's way? Because I know Caroline. We've talked quite often, and that's how I actually sort of discovered her online and met, her online because I mean through another group. But I also wanted to share with her behind the scenes, like I know what you're talking about. Same page here. Yeah, absolutely.
Out of harm's way. Thank you. And I will put a link to that in the show notes and tag her as well. Um,
Mm,
Thank you for that.
of course.
Okay, well,
Story
yeah,
time.
story time.
So, I could go in multiple directions here because like I've said, I've met every variety. So I feel, now I feel blessed that I'm able to help others. And I understand work situations, I understand personal, I understand the romantic relationships. So I'm going to go with the romantic one. Let's start there. And this was someone I met, and right away, the classic signs were there. This person was complimenting me quite rapidly. And were I to listen to my body in that moment, it was uncomfortable. Like there was moments when it's like almost like the flipping through the screen, and it was like something was off, but it's like okay, okay, then no, it's okay. This is fine. They just happen to be a complimentary person. So the love bombing, absolutely, and they were my new BFF. Everything that I liked, they liked. So mirroring, because as a narcissist, empathy is not a thing. And myself, being an empath, well, I'm like looking at animals and nature and people, and there's this big heart that comes out. So they would just mimic me. They were fabulous at it, really. It's almost believable, almost. And so as this person got to know me, they're reeling me in and definitely trying to keep friends out. They didn't want to hang out with friends or be around anyone else. I like being just quiet. I like my quiet time, my solitude, those types of conversations we'd have. So I thought, oh, okay, that's fine. I like quiet.
Yeah.
Um, sure enough, after a certain length of time, the criticism starts. It would be little things like if they were over at my home and say, oh, well, this light fixture needs fixing. Well, obviously, your ex didn't love you at all because they never fixed it for you. Excuse me? Like, what kind of, I would wonder, like, what kind of comment is that? But it was, little digs. But then back to the love bombing. Dig, love bombing. Dig, love bombing, right? We'd spread it out. And then it got to a point where there was so much criticism, then the gaslighting started. So whatever had been said, I was wrong. So I got tickets one night for a documentary film. I emailed, texted, talked on the phone with this person and said, I've got the tickets, I'll meet you there. Well, of course, I get there, they don't show up. What do? Too bad for you, I'm going in. I gave the ticket to the person at the ticket taking booth and I said, you know what? I can't get a hold of the person who's supposed to come. These are paid for. If anybody walks up, give them a free ticket on me.
Right.
I
Mhm.
went and I enjoyed the documentary. Of course, afterwards, there was a screaming match. This person is like, no, you never told me. You didn't, and like, there's emails, there's texts, like it was, but even then, because this was going on so much, I'm starting to second guess. And it's a screaming match. Like this person is enraged. Now, where it gets to the turning point, I finally convinced them to attend an event with me. So this person attends the event. At this event, someone was releasing something they created, some kind of cards and a book and whatever. So we were talking with that person. There was someone else who was presenting. I went up to speak to the presenter to tell him what an amazing job he had done. And I was really interested in what he was talking about. Boom. Suddenly, the person who I was with is no longer in the room. So I'm like, where are they? Where'd they go? I find them outside. They're on the phone and I think, okay, maybe they just wanted to get some fresh air. No, they start yelling because I'm obviously interested in this other person because I spoke to them and that I'm making plans to go on a date with this person and all sorts of delusions. So in that moment, I take a deep breath and I think, well, I could go up to the main street and get an Uber, but that's going to make them angrier. Or do I just go with them? Like, which way do I go? And this is earlier in the game, in the first month or two. So I'm like, I better just go with them because I can calm them down. I can do this. I know how to handle this. Not good. So I get in the car, we drive towards the lake, and then he gets out and I get out and he says, I should probably throw you in the lake. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, you're probably going to. So I start looking around, scanning, is there anyone around me? Like if I need that help. He rages for a bit, stops. We carry on our way and he yells at me that whole night, just screaming and yelling. The next day I received a phone call from a friend and she could tell I was upset. I wasn't myself. And she asked me, what's up? And I said, oh, well, this is what happened. And she goes, oh, that just means he really likes you.
Ooh.
No. Like right
Ooh.
away now, my friend has lost any kind of value with me because I'm like, I don't believe you. I think this is an issue. Like this extremeness is not cool.
But here's the thing though, like what kind of conditioning did your friend have to think that that was okay? And how many of us women, whatever, excuse me, are out there thinking
Mhm,
that this is okay?
mhm,
It's, you know what I mean? Like there's something to that.
mhm.
Keep going. I want to loop back on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the time, it was like a half and half. Like I get where she's coming from, but I knew in me this was not good. So, I thought, okay, he seemed to calm down. He, of course, apologizes. Oh, let's bring her back in. Let's hoover her back in. I didn't buy it. I'm now 1.5 foot out already. And I'm like, okay, let's see what else he's bringing. Sure enough, the next time something happens, I'm out at an event he didn't want to come, screaming and yelling at me on the phone because obviously I'm up to dating everyone there or something. Just the craziness. So I finally speak to a group of friends, and we're on a Zoom call, and I say to them, I break down and I say, I can't do this anymore. They had, maybe some of them had met this person, so they, they'd seen the show, though they hadn't seen the other side. They believed me. And I said, so what I'm going to do is I want to end things with this person. So they were all waiting for me. They were on their phones, everything. I met in a public place. At first, he was like, okay, okay. And then he followed me out of that place screaming and yelling. I did get away, but I thought, okay, I'm in real trouble now. Like, I cannot get rid of this person. So it took a little bit longer because I knew my friends couldn't help me. But what I didn't figure out, it doesn't dawn on a person who's very independent, who's very used to taking care of things, can handle everything. I was that person from a young age. What I did not figure out was I needed the police. I needed support. I needed help. And it took another month or two of like trying to stay away, trying to hide from this person, but they were practically stalking me by this point, showing up in public places, screaming at the top of their lungs, whether I'm at the bank or at a mall, wherever I was. It got to the point where I had my male friends who knew escort me to stores because I was looking over my shoulder in the grocery store. I was shaking in the grocery store. And so I would only go out if these two male friends could go out and go with me on this errand. And one of the times we were out and the screaming and yelling, the person showed up screaming and yelling. And my friend just said, go, run, right? So I knew I needed help. And so the friend who had said, now let's reel it back, the one who said he just really loves you. That's what it is. He cares about you. I called her and we talked, and she said, my daughter goes to ballet and one of the dads is a police detective. I'm going to get you his phone number. Perfect. I said, okay, I'll talk to him. Very next morning, 6 a.m., I talked to him and he's like, absolutely, absolutely. Go in, make a statement, document everything. You need to get this on record. This is not cool. Like, you are right. This is like, you need help. And so I said, well, I'm not going to go in today. It's a snowstorm. It'll be fine. I'll go in tomorrow. So that day, other friends of mine who don't know what's going on in my life, let's go to the yoga show. Let's go to the convention center. And I'm like, okay. I go. They're looking around. I am just scanning the room, like looking left, right, center, up, down. Security guard over there. Security guard over there. There's a door over there. That's what I'm doing the whole time. Really? Was it wise to go to the show? No. But we make it through. Nothing happened. I thought, oh, okay, we're good. My friends go to drop me off. And I said, you know what? Just drop me at the organic store. I'll walk from there. They did. On my way walking back, a car pulls up and it's him. And there is a chase. He chases me and is yelling at me. At one point, he grabs my coat. And now just before he did that, I dialed the friend who had just dropped me off. And she right away could hear the tone of my voice. She goes, I'm coming right back to get you. In the meantime, I put the phone in my pocket. He grabs my coat and he got the phone. I didn't even know this. I'm so terrified at this point. Now my friend does come back. I realize I don't have my phone. She takes me right to the police. And from there, it was a long ordeal. Going to the police, them speaking to him saying, no, she's lying, gaslighting. I don't have her phone, nothing, none of this. And the police don't know what to do. And so I'm basically told to go speak to family court, see if I can get a restraining order. Well, I do go. And the poor woman who spoke to me that day, I walk in, I tell her what I need and why I want it. And she says, I can't help you. You have to have been married or common law. And I burst into tears and I can't stop. And this poor woman, like, bless her, because I couldn't stop crying. She finally gets on the phone though and says, I am going to help you. Don't you worry. She calls over to another court and says, I have a young woman here who needs a peace bond and she needs to see you right away. So I'm going to send her over. You give her the forms. She'll go and wait for a meeting. And that's when everything started clearing up. I had the meeting. I remember speaking to the magistrate and she even said, why aren't you pressing criminal charges? And I'm like, I don't want to. I just want this person to stay away from me. Let me tell you, if you have the opportunity, close that kind heart of yours for a moment, press the charges. Because what happened next was a lot more stalking over the next couple of weeks. Eventually it stopped as we started going into court gates to get the peace bond. And then after that, that was good. Once that was put in place, a good stiff warning was having that peace bond was helpful. I would say now to anybody, go to the police, get help, go to organizations like Caroline's, like reach out and get the help. Absolutely.
It's so powerful what you just shared, and it's like it's one of the more like extreme cases too, and there's even worse.
Absolutely.
And this was somebody who you weren't really in a relationship with. Like you just dated a
Mhm.
couple of times, and you weren't really in a relationship with. And I'm just looking at one of my other another episode that I have from a client of mine, Stephanie. What are the signs of dating a narcissist? And so this was someone who was married in it. And so I think that there's like all of these like extreme, like all of these different layers and nuances of all of this, right? First of all, thank you for sharing that. And that must have been like obviously was such a difficult time for you. And I'm really glad that you were surrounded by support. And what I'm hearing in that, and if anybody's in this right now, like what I'm hearing is maybe some of your friends might not, I don't know, want to say believe you, but like might not
I
see what you're
understand.
seeing, or they might not understand or whatnot. And because um there in certain circumstances, someone like this does have a really great public persona and
Absolutely.
is very well loved. And so it's like the two characters just, it's Jekyll and Hyde, right? And so the two characters just don't align. And so somebody who's not intimately involved with that person would just be like, what are you talking about? This guy's great, or this girl's
Lovely
great.
person. So
Yeah,
kind, so always helpful, like really helpful with people too. They'll go out of their way to set it
yeah.
up, flying monkeys around you, right?
Right, right, right. But you did have support from your friends, from those two guy friends. That was smart. Um, and you made such a great point. What's that?
Bless those two guys. I'm
Bless
still
those
friends
two
with them,
men.
and we don't talk about it anymore. But you know, honestly, the fact that they just were like they believed, and I could not go alone, and they knew it was so out of character for me.
Yeah.
For me to have to ask and say, I cannot go to the store alone. So I am forever grateful to them both. Incredible.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Thank you to those men. Because there are a lot of really amazing men out there. A
Absolutely.
a lot of really amazing men out there. And and thank you to that the court system that enabled you to move through. So okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that, well, at least in Ontario, um a restraining order is only available for married or common law, but you could get a peace order if it's someone who's,
Yeah, well, that wasn't even knowledge that I had. I had no clue. I'd
yeah,
heard restraining order before, and I thought, of course I can get one. No,
right,
I couldn't. Um,
okay,
that I think just hearing that I couldn't made me cry more that day. I was like, "Are you kidding me?
yeah,
Like, why can't someone who's being stalked or being terrorized, you know?" I remember saying even speaking to them about the peace bond. I had a lovely police detective who I'm still in touch with. She's amazing. And I remember saying, when a woman needs that support and that safety, like, do you want to wake up the next day? Like, how do you go to bed at night knowing you might wake up the next day and read about this in the newspaper and
mm,
not a good ending? So, like, that's, and I was very blunt about it with them because I'm like, this is serious and this is something that needs to change. I mean, the peace bond is good too. It's about keeping the person away, of course, but it does take time. It took many months, many times in court. Um, and the court system, towards those who have done something that's maybe not great, they're pretty sometimes lenient. I remember one of our first court dates, it was like, oh, the person said, oh, I'm going to be away on vacation for a month or something, or 2 months. They're trying to, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, such a lie. Nope. It's okay. We'll change it for you. Right?
Wow.
That kind of stuff. So
So
I,
yeah, what are some of these like antidotes? Like it's really difficult because um the people who often end up finding themselves in these types of relationships aren't always people who have like incredibly low self-worth, and you know what I mean, because it's like love bombing. If this is why I'm such an advocate for like self-worth, self-love, self-worth, self-love, like love yourself, love yourself, have good solid boundaries, like know who you are, right? Like let's just keep hammering that empowerment message, for everybody out there. And but who doesn't like to hear that they're gorgeous and that they're beautiful or they're amazing or they're wonderful or whatever? Who doesn't want to hear I love you? Like who doesn't want to hear that? And there's a spectrum on that too, because it's like if you're like so deprived in that because you're a not giving it to yourself, you don't know how or whatever, you're just not giving it to yourself. And B, maybe it's been a really long time since you've been in something romantic and you're finally just putting yourself out there. Like there's 50,000 facets to this, like how and why people end up in these situations. And so there's that one spectrum where it's like water in the desert, like thank you, like yes, I haven't heard that I'm beautiful in so long, or really I think I'm fat, or you know what I mean, like thank you for feeding that, like our ego and that part of us really really needs it, and then that's where like we get like that sucked on and then they suck it out, and but then there's like people who are confident and who do love themselves and who are like have got a lot going on and still can find themselves caught in the charm, because there's
absolutely.
a lot of charm involved in it. And so I think the entry might be a little difficult to manage, right? Because like I said, like you could be the most like bomb ass diggity queen, knowing your worth and all of that, and still end up in that type of scenario, meaning with someone who's a covert narcissist, for example.
A little
Okay.
Jekyll and Hyde, right? And you're not
Behind, like all of a sudden.
because they wait. It's not done right away. They're going to
No,
wait. They need to have you hook, line, and sinker first. Like they really, and then they'll do a little test. They're not going to do it right away. Of course not.
right. And so that I think is, again, this is really challenging because if you've got an open heart, you're understanding, you're empathetic, people
Mhm.
fuck up. People fuck up. People do things. People do
Absolutely.
shit, right? And it's like,
It's
okay,
passion.
right. So we have compassion, right? But it's like, where does that compassion line like flip over into like, I'm letting somebody get away with like being abusive towards me. You know what I mean? And like it happens. I like to call it's almost like that analogy where you're a frog in water being
Oh,
boiled and you
really?
don't know that you're being boiled, right? And then next thing you know, you're like blah, 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 blah. You're in this boiling
Yeah.
situation. You're just like, what the hell? How did I get here?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think like some key takeaways for this is intuition.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that, Krisha, like your intuition, your gut knowing, when you get whatever it is for you, some people it might be a tingling, maybe they feel almost like a heaviness in their stomach. Maybe they, like for me, sometimes even I get this tingling down like the edges of my body, almost like lightning, right? And listen to that. Like really, really, you have to have that, what you're saying, self-love, self-care, deep, deep connection to self.
Mm.
Because then you'll listen to that. And also, even from the first insult,
Mm.
It's true. People can make mistakes, but when someone takes that dig at you, it's the
Mhm.
standing up, really. And a boundary right there has been crossed.
Yeah.
That's not how you speak to me. That
Yeah.
is not, and then watch to see because, I mean, a narcissist doesn't like to be criticized.
Yeah.
Watch how
Well,
they,
yeah.
watch how they don't take responsibility.
Yeah.
Right there, there's your answer. Right
Yeah.
there, right?
Defending, deflecting, gaslighting, putting it back on you, playing the victim, all of that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a book as well that I found helpful, when loving him is hurting you.
Hmm.
I found that book really helpful. Because it was a little, if from memory, it was a little religious in nature, but that's okay. Um, and because what the author did in that was be like, hey, this is a real freaking thing. This is a real thing. And that loops back to what we were saying at the beginning about how this is emotional abuse. And emotional abuse isn't as widely discussed because it's uncomfortable. I mean, like, hello, we live in a society where we don't talk about our emotions. We gaslight ourselves. We bypass, you know what I mean? And yet we're like such emotional beings. Like,
Hmm.
how we ended up here is just crazy. But like, so emotional abuse is very uncomfortable. Emotions in general is uncomfortable for a lot of people,
Most
right?
people.
Most people. And like, like some of the women that I work with are, not connected to they're afraid of their own emotion. They're not connected to their own emotion because they're afraid if they start crying, they're never going to stop or whatever. And
I
it's
completely understand that. Most of my clients will come that way. I mean, my work is very deep, and I know for myself as an actor, when I had first, because I'm super emotional, super empath, but
Mhm.
there was times in my life when I wanted to lock it up because I felt like I was too much, like too much in the emotions, and I had to learn that, some people are going to be afraid of that. And it's
Yeah,
interesting that my clients do come to me because I just sit in everything. Whatever wheel of emotion you're going to bring, I'm like, cool.
whatever. Remind me, are you emotional authority in human design?
I'm not
You're not. Okay. Yeah.
manifesting center.
But with open emotional authority. Okay. Yeah. It's funny because we've talked about this on a with I have talked about this with other guests on this podcast this season. Specifically, human design just keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Um it must it's pushing itself out to be discussed right now. And emotional authority has been discussed a few times, with actually other manifesting generators, with sacral authority. And so there's two ways of looking at that too in terms of emotion, just like a little sidecar conversation here. But like, I am emotional authority. And so I can really stand at a lot of different emotions and nothing phases me. And I
Yeah.
have my own process of how I process my own emotions. I don't feel necessarily other people's emotions. I know that they're having an emotional experience, but I don't like feel what they're feeling. Whereas what I understand about open emotional is that, you can feel the flavor of other people's emotions, right? And a
You feel
healthy,
what they're hiding.
yeah, and a healthy
They're
version.
talking to you and they're holding back and like they're whatever it is just here. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, so I'm just gonna sit here a bit more, maybe ask a different question this way.
right,
For the floodgates because it's true what you're saying exactly. It's people are afraid of their emotions,
yeah,
um, and so it takes being with someone who's not afraid.
right.
That's where we come in, people like us who are like, cool, you want to cry, you want to yell, you want to laugh, what do we want to do here? That's all good, right?
And for those who maybe I self-identify as a narcissist,
Mhm.
I mean, again, on the extreme side, I couldn't and wouldn't work with someone, at that level, right? But maybe somebody who, like, let's say it's a spectrum, and 1 to 10, I
Yes.
could probably work with somebody who's like a 7 to 10, meaning like 10 being not at all,
Hmm.
which I think we all are to a degree. you know but let's say 7 to 10, because that person would, chances are, be pretty self-aware.
Yeah.
And the self-awareness is really what's needed to be able to heal and be like, oh my God, I see this in myself. And like, wow, I need to heal whatever this is that's lacking in me, that's making me make other people. The word puppet is coming through, like be my puppet or be, like this thing that I can control, because it really does feel like control. And
Oh,
in your,
manipulating.
what's that?
Manipulating.
And if, yeah, which is a form of control, right? And like, it sounds to me in your instance like this person was trying to control who you were talking to, and then making a delusional story about the fact that you were, wanting to date that person or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. And then the public screaming, like that's violent. That's violence.
That was something I hadn't experienced before. That was something I'd only seen in a film or a TV show before. Like, not in reality, really. I mean, yes, people have their road rage, and you see people in cars. I've seen that where people are yelling at each other. You turned in front of me, you stopped in front of me, whatever. But to have someone just show up stalkingly and show up in the middle of a mall or a bank and just start yelling, I mean, they have to know that that's so humiliating, embarrassing.
Mhm.
And what I learned after the first one or two was I learned to keep moving, like to get out of there. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's very shocking.
It really is. It really is. We've got just a few minutes left here. I wanna like loop back for a second
Sure.
about that, your friend, like he loves you. So that's so interesting, because it's like, where in the world does that come from? Like, where in the world does that belief system come through? You know what I mean? Like, what did your friend grow up with to think that being yelled at or having that treatment
Mhm.
meant that that man loved you? You know,
Yeah.
where did we get that from? That's
Well,
like,
sometimes maybe people watch their own parents. I don't know. Maybe it's from movies. I don't, that whole thing of like people have this fight and then they make up and everything's all good, this romanticizing of it where in reality, yeah, people can have disagreements and they can argue. Of course, that's going to come up in relationships. You're all figuring each other out and sort of discovering, each person's lane. But that type of rage and ridiculousness of just because it's like going up to the Starbucks and ordering, a latte, and the next thing you know, that person you're with is freaking out and screaming at you because the way you ordered your latte was flirting or something. You know what I mean? Like it's that gaslighting at the same time.
um,
Um, for some people, maybe because she wasn't there, or maybe her own value of that is that, oh, people fight and they yell, and that just means they love you if they fight. Now, from an acting perspective, I can see, I look at that, when you have actors in a scene, if the person didn't love you, they won't continue to engage with you. When a couple's fighting, there has to be something there. Otherwise, the glue that keeps them, right? If they didn't care at all, they would leave. So there's that avenue. But in reality, yes, you have a little disagreement. You have a little arguing, but not this rage and this craziness that's going on. That is not balanced.
it's not at all. No, no. Um, so what would be some parting thoughts? Let's say there's a person listening right now who's like, dang, I'm in something here. And it could be really severe or even a little bit mild, maybe somebody new who's exhibiting some of these signs, because it's really hard to, like, what I found with this was, it's like, but he's so nice, or like there's all these like really positive things over here, like, am I imagining this? Like, it really is crazy making,
Yeah, it's a cognitive dissonance because you remember all the good stuff. Even for me, as I was going through court, I would remember a lot of the good stuff
Mhm.
until it. the balance turned and I started really the reality of the craziness.
Mhm.
I think writing my statements for court, that helped me. Like,
Yeah.
as I read it myself, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
that's crazy. Um, you
Right.
know, it's err on the side of caution. If this is what's happening for you, reach out to something like, Caroline's organization. Um, Talk to someone who maybe there's someone online who, helps people with narcissists, recovering from narcissist abuse, emotional abuse. Get some help, reach out. Um, Err on the side of caution, you know, if you're
Mhm.
if you're not sure, right? Um, and the big thing too is, narcissists, when they choose someone, they're like what I want everyone to know. I wish I would have known right away because I felt, after that or any other situation that, oh, obviously I'm weak and that's why they're choosing me and, I'm not a great person or whatever it is. They choose the winners. They're looking for that independent, strong, loyal. They're looking for, and a big heart. You add that in, you got a winning combination. They're hand choosing you, picking you because of
Mhm.
that. If there's someone who's not very capable in life, who's really struggling and, has a lot of issues, that's not the person they're going to go to. That's not their playground.
No, and so it's almost like it's almost in a way like, what the heck? Like we are helping, predominantly women, like work up themselves and like be powerful and strong and independent and empowered and self-love and all of that kind of stuff. And yet that makes you a target. Like what? And so I think then that what we talked about is like that part B is intuition. Trust your intuition, trust your inner knowing, feel that in your body. And that's why you and I spend so much time in somatic work with our clients, because it's like, what is your body saying? What's your body saying? What's your, like my whole book, the gracious no, that we now finally have a name for, all about
I like
ending
that.
to please and setting boundaries and things like that. There's like a whole, like I talk about listening to your body over and over and over again in it, because it's vital. It's so
Food
vital.
for
What
thought.
is your body saying right now? And so many people don't even understand what that question is. And
Mhm.
it's like, well, are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling sort of like, are you not breathing? Are you tense? Are you, like you said, having electric things going through your body? Like, what are you feeling because your mind is saying, oh, but he's not that bad, or she's not that bad, or it's not that
Get out of the
bad.
mind, get in the body. Get
Get
out
into
of the mind, get into the body. Your mind can help you a little bit with it, but really it's full body experiencing. It
mm-hmm.
all the time. Children have that, right? Children know if someone comes up to them and
Yeah.
they generally can sort of like, oh, that doesn't seem like a good person, Um, and we lose that. We get socialized and we start, especially as women, we start bypassing because we
Yes.
want to defer to the authority or the person that knows or, deflect. Um, Really come back home to the body.
Yeah.
That's going to be your biggest knight on a shining arbor, I guess. Your own body. That's it, right inside of you. You have it. And
Yeah.
then when someone is in a situation, though, because we're human, right? And there's all these humans in the world in this playground called Earth. Reach out. Do not ever feel embarrassed or ashamed or humiliated to reach out for help, especially someone who is a strong, independent, powerful person. Reach out.
Yeah.
It's easy access on the internet, whatever, to reach out to the right people.
Mhm. And that is hard for someone who is independent. Like I know myself, like I struggle with that.
Well,
It's like,
I struggled with that.
I'm
Let
fine,
me
fine.
let me let me tell you the difference now. What a blessing, what a gift. I have no problem. I'm that person now. If I'm on the subway here in Toronto and there's something going on, I march right up to the booth and I'm like, you need to call the police now. You want me to
Mm,
call them? Like I am like in there and like getting help. And if it's me too, I will not stay in that situation. I'm like off going right up to the guard and saying, look, this is what's happening. That was not me. That
yeah.
was not me. My past would have been like, well, I hope it's going to be okay. I don't want to bother anybody. Just like the
Yeah.
fact of going to the police or going to anybody, I would be like, oh, I don't want to, like, this isn't really that bad. I shouldn't bother them. Now I'm like, hello, this is me. I
Yeah.
need your help.
I'm gonna be a bother, yo.
I'm going to come straight in there and talk to you.
I'm gonna I'm gonna bother you. I love it. And thank you and keep doing that because like again, like as you know, we are also healed on a spectrum, right? And so you're at this end, like you're at the upper end, if you will, of the spectrum of a woman who's been through this and reached out to help and you know what I mean, like to get help and like you know what I mean, and so like you're sort of like pulling everybody else, right? Like you're like, okay, if she, that's exactly what I said in the intro, if she can do it, you can too. And so like you did it, Kathryn. You reached out for help, you got help, and you know, like so if you can do it, like anybody who is might be experiencing this, you can do it too, you know. And
Absolutely.
like it's okay, and start wherever you feel the most comfortable of reaching out for help, and that might be with a friend or someone who you know, before going to the police, for example, and then you know, and then working your way up.
Absolutely. You know, if I look back now, what a blessing, what a gift now.
Yeah,
Again, I don't want anyone to experience it,
yeah,
you know, but I can say now I am that first person to report things, to stand up for things. It doesn't matter. It's not that conversation in my mind anymore of like, oh, I don't want to bother, or is it really something? I don't care if it's something or not. I'm speaking up. I don't
yeah,
like you know, so, and that's from super independent, you know, left home as a teenager. I can take care of everything. I don't need help from anybody. That was my mantra before. And I
mhm,
can tell you that's not my mantra anymore. I'm like, anyone else want to join in and help?
yeah.
I mean, let's support, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Amazing. Well, hey, listen, we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing this story, and hopefully it does help people, you know. And yeah, thank you for sharing all of this. Where can people find you?
Yeah, well, you can find me on my website, www.kathrynmalek.com. I also have a Facebook group, Serene Soul Synergy. I'm also on Facebook, so any of those. And thank you so much for having me back again.
Yeah, of course. I love interviewing you. This is great, great conversation. Um, thank you, everybody, for listening and watching the Dirt in the Divine as well. I really appreciate you being here. If you like this episode or you like this whole entire programming, please like, share, and subscribe. And leaving reviews is also really helpful as well. If you'd like to learn more about me and my programs, you can go to KrishaYoung.com. You can find me on Instagram as well at the Krisha Young, and I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as well, Krisha Young across the board. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Kathryn, for your wisdom and for your divine feminine essence and energy supporting us in this journey called life. And I will see all of you in the next episode.